Hello, everyone, and welcome back to GodSaw's Turnbuckle. And today we are going to be reviewing WWE's Royal Rumble for 2026. And just to start off with everything here, before we do get into the matches themselves, I did find this show to actually be a rather enjoyable one, personally, on my particular end. Just things that I particularly saw throughout the Rumble matches themselves, for the fact that it was over in Saudi Arabia in this particular case. Things that I noticed kind of with the Royal Rumble itself, with both of those matches, is that, hey, yeah, a lot of them would pop for a lot of the major stars coming out. But the other thing that I kind of noticed, at least with the vast majority of the more recent NXT call ups and also NXT people that showed up in general, such as like Lola Vice and Kalani Jordan in the Women's Royal Rumble, it seemed like they got a decent pop to go along with it, as well. Also, like Javon Evans, who's just coming up, Oba Femi, who was in the match, and this was really his first time on the main roster since the Saturday night's main event. People like that seem to get a little bit of a bigger pop. Also, Trick Williams is he needs to be massive to go along with it. Same with Oba to go along with that as well. But overall, I did find this show to be a rather enjoyable one. Four matches on the card, which is what you kind of expected with the fact that there's two Royal Rumble matches on there. And we'll go ahead and start off with the Women's Royal Rumble match, which I did find to be a rather fun Rumble. I wouldn't say this was like their best outing or their worst outing. It was probably somewhere in the middle, and it was actually kind of fun to watch. I did like that beginning of the match with Charlotte and Alexa starting out 1 and 2. They teased that they were going to fight, but both of them were like, nah, I'm just joking. And then kind of teamed up during their time in the Rumble. It lasted up until about number 9 when Becky Lynch came out, because right before Becky Lynch came out, Nia and Alexa were fighting on the outside of the ring after both of them went over the top rope. Charlotte goes to eliminate Nia, which she does, but also Alexa falls off as well. I think they missed it on camera, but it looked like they were trying to play off the fact that Charlotte was also trying to save Alexa to go along with it. Saw her falling, so she tried reaching for her, couldn't catch her. So they're going to play off. I feel like they're going to play off of that because they made it seem like it was an accidental one, but could also be taken by Alexa's way of thinking is like, oh, she meant to eliminate me to go along with it, even though we had said that we were okay not doing that until the end at the beginning of the match. Now, Charlotte did go on to last the longest in the Royal Rumble. I mean, she was out there, I think until number 30 was out there, but she wasn't part of the final four within that match. She actually got eliminated, I believe, by Lash Legend, who's also a very good showing inside the Rumble, looking very dominant and coming out there after Nia had been eliminated to go along with it. That was more towards the end of the match itself. Other things that happened kind of during the beginning of the match, really the biggest talking point there is that you had Becky come out at 9, Maxine came out somewhere around 13 or 12 or 13 with that, and then Natty was out there as well. Natty, of course, going with the more Natty character that she's been doing in Bloodsport and outside of WWE for a little bit, and also in her time in AAA as well, versus her Natalia character. So they're making that changeover. They changed up her music, everything like that. It sounded like budget Rage Against the Machine. We'll just leave it at that as well. And you kind of get that with La Parka, who shows up in the Men's Rumble. We'll talk about that in a little bit, though. The biggest talking point with that one is that Becky and Natty eliminate Maxine, and then Becky teases eliminating Natty, and then Natty just eliminates Becky with that very early on in the match. So that was probably one of the biggest like interesting spots early on in the match was the fact that Becky was out that quick in the match itself. Somebody who you would think is probably going to be in there for a lot longer, but ends up not being the case. Other things that were kind of a talking point in this particular one as well were people who were not in the Rumble itself. One of those being AJ Lee, which I imagine they're still going to build to her and Becky having a match at some point in time. And a lot of people feel like that would be the Mania match. It might have just been the case that she wasn't going to go over to Saudi Arabia. I don't necessarily know. That's speculation. That's all speculation there for that. And then Bianca was not in the match itself as well, which indicates that she is still not ready from the broken finger from last year at WrestleMania, which apparently was a very bad finger injury. It ended up being more of a broken knuckle than a broken finger. So still not ready to come back, or is she going to come back at Elimination Chamber or something in that sense? Because a lot of people do feel that her and Charlotte, or not Charlotte, but her and Jade will be the WrestleMania match as well. So I don't necessarily know where that is going to end up going with that. That was just interesting points of who was in the match and who was not in the match. Also, who found their way into the match as well. You did have JC Jane from NXT as the NXT Women's Champion. You had Sol Ruka, Lola Vice, and Kalani Jordan, who were from NXT. I felt like all of them had kind of had their own particular time to shine. Sol Ruka more so than any of them, because she was actually in the match for about 50 minutes. And it was actually part of the final 3 as well. And honestly looked great in the match. To go along with it. But I did feel like Lola Vice actually had a pretty decent showing in there. Kalani Jordan did have a couple of decent spots in there as well. And same with JC Jane. And again, it felt like for any real, like, outside of like major stars, it felt like over there, more like people, if they were in NXT, also got a relatively big pop, especially if they were one of the bigger stars from NXT as well. So that was definitely a big talking point on there. Jordynne Grace did not last nearly as long as I thought she would in the match. Honestly, did not do too terribly much in the match as well. And I believe that was more or less because of the fact that Jade came out there and helped eliminate her. I believe that was the case, if I'm remembering that correctly. I'm probably not remembering that correctly at all in any way, shape, or form, as I'm just briefly going through my notes here. See here. I'm not, somebody please correct me if I'm completely wrong on that one. But actually, no, Jade and Jordynne Grace actually only had an interaction on SmackDown. It was Lash Legend who had eliminated Jordynne Grace. My apologies on that. My apologies on that side of it as well. And yeah, a lot of things happen more towards the end of the match, especially when you got people like Asuka, Bayley going out there, Lyra Valkyria, Rhea Ripley getting out there, Io Sky getting out there. You had the tensions between Io, Asuka, Rhea, Kairi, which you had they finally kind of gotten more to that spot of Kairi is getting in the way of Asuka a little bit more, as Asuka was kind of hanging onto the ropes. Kairi was going after Io and accidentally knocks Asuka off the apron, eliminating her. You even get like the bit off camera where Asuka is yelling for Kairi as well to go along with that, in like that very angry way that Asuka does it as well. So you had all those tensions. You had also tension between the Judgment Day members as well. Like, where do they go with this? Because, well, the eventual winner of the match, Liv Morgan, eliminates Raquel Rodriguez. There was no real tension between Roxanne Perez and anybody, as she got eliminated by somebody else in the match. And then, but you know, towards the end of the match, you had this spot where, Raquel Rodriguez was going to do the Tejana Bomb to Rhea Ripley and actually does eliminate her with it in a very brutal fashion, honestly. She does the Tejana Bomb to Rhea Ripley from over the top rope. She hits the apron and just falls to the ground. It looked brutal in there. And as Raquel was celebrating, Liv just eliminates her. That got to the final four, leaving it to only 3 people at that time. Now, before we fully go into the final 3, just as a bit for comebacks in there as well, especially late in the match. And oh my God, at 29, Brie Bella comes out, and the place erupts for Brie Bella in welcome back chants, in yes chants, everything in that sense. And then right after that, also pretty decent pop to go along with it, Tiffany Stratton comes back as well. The Bella, Nikki and Brie Bella actually team up against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria and actually eliminate both of them, so maybe that's teasing to a tag match there for that. The final 3 being Liv and Tiffany and Sol Ruca. All 3 of them fight out to the apron. All of them have gone over the top rope. Liv was actually in the middle of it for a good portion of it, and all 3 of them are kind of just fighting on the apron. It eventually leads to Sol Ruca looking for the Soul Snatcher on Tiffany Stratton, but Tiffany eliminates Soul, and then Liv actually hits the Oblivion on Tiffany and sending her outside the ring to win the match itself. Now, just for purposes of it, it's going to be an interesting thing to see where they're going to go with this Liv and Raquel thing that happened in the match. I feel like that is going to eventually be a story beat. At least it should be, especially with the factors, they're within the same group. They weren't down to the final 2, and Liv just eliminates Raquel. So this could be leading to something. Maybe it is actually leading to something at WrestleMania where maybe Raquel gets the title from Stephanie Vaquer, and then Liv is going to be fighting Raquel at WrestleMania. I don't necessarily know with that, but in all honesty, I thought it was a fun match. I personally enjoyed it. You did get some story beats out of it as well. Probably not as many as you were probably hoping in that particular match. Or maybe it wasn't as well spread out. I'm not 100% certain on that. But overall, I enjoyed the match. Now, after the Women's Royal Rumble match, up next was Gunther going up against AJ Styles. If AJ Styles did lose the match, he was going to have to at least retire from WWE. I don't know if that's going to necessarily be the case, but even with the short build on this one, you could definitely feel the tension throughout the entire match itself. It had been heavily rumored out there, at least since September of last year, that AJ Styles' contract was up after the Royal Rumble was over with, and was potential that he was going to be leaving to either just fully retire or maybe do kind of a retirement thing outside of the WWE as well. I don't necessarily know if that would be the case, but just based off of what they were doing before, after this match was made, a few weeks ago, having the Nakamura match, having the CM Punk match on Raw, again, the Nakamura match on Saturday night's main event, it did feel like that they were going through some of the greatest hits as quickly as they possibly could. And my pick during this was that Gunther was going to win. Now, just on the aspect of it, this was an excellent match. This was a great excellent match of the night. Like I said, the tension was high throughout the entire match itself, and you had all those bits throughout there. You know, Gunther in control, AJ fighting back, getting even further down later into the match as well. That, you know, AJ was getting beaten down and beaten down to the point that they were like, you know, Gunther was like, just ask him if he, you know, quits, like, because he's just down and defenseless. But AJ keeps fighting back. He does actually bust out a springboard 450 at one point into a Styles Clash for a 2. And actually also power bombs Gunther at one point in time. But eventually it did lead to kind of the same spot between Gunther and John Cena on that one. We do get a little bit of a different finish this time. AJ does keep fighting, but eventually AJ fades and they lift the arm once and the match ends for that. Now, just for purposes of this, I did really enjoy this match. Like, you had AJ going for things that Gunther was countering, going for the calf crusher, going after the leg as he did before, and Gunther would keep getting to the ropes. They didn't do the spot that they did in their first match where Gunther did the fake tap out, which would have been a nice little touch to add in there. But honestly, that was probably the only thing I can really mention that would be something that maybe they missed or something in that sense. But like I said, this is just an excellent match. Gunther does win, and AJ Styles is gone from WWE at this point. And it's kind of crazy to really think that. There's a lot of heavy rumors out there whether or not he's going to continue doing other matches outside of the WWE. I don't know if that's the case or not, because it's heavily implied that he is done with the in-ring at this point, which would lead you to believe that he is not going to go to like a TNA, a New Japan Pro Wrestling, or even an AEW to maybe do some greatest hits or anything in that sense for the rest of the year. I don't know necessarily where they're going to go with everything. The crowd was firmly behind the match, and they did kind of give that silence at the end as well for AJ, and they were going crazy for AJ after the fact, giving him respect, everything on that side. And they also teased, like AJ does this tease in there as well, that he's removed the gloves and he was going to place them in the ring. And this leads me to believe that he may do something outside of WWE later in the year or throughout the rest of the year, because he goes to lay down the gloves but can't do it. And then he puts them back on. And then he leaves, which again indicates to me that there might be something more, just not in WWE for the rest of this year. I kind of hope that's the case. If this is AJ Styles' final match, it was an excellent match to go out on. The ending to me, I felt was a lot, I wouldn't say a lot better than the Cena one, because I think both of them kind of play off of what each person was truthfully at in their career at that time. Cena tapping out in his final match was someone who was content with everything ending. AJ was fighting to to have things keep going for the rest of the year. So instead of tapping, he passes out. So I feel like the differences between those two actually make sense to go along with it. But man, if this is AJ Styles' final match, it's an excellent match to go out on. I'm not going to lie on that. And if that's also his final match as well, thank you, AJ, on that as well. Because I've watched AJ Styles from TNA Wrestling. I've watched a bit of his New Japan stuff. Not I wouldn't say I was watching that stuff live. It was kind of after the fact. And then, of course, his entire WWE run to go along with it. Great career, phenomenal career. Let's play off words there. And yeah, this was just an excellent match. Now, having to follow a retirement match, it was the WWE title match, and it was going to be Drew McIntyre going up against Sami Zayn. This was also a pretty good match. I didn't actually... Yeah, they didn't get me to a point that I felt like Sami Zayn was going to pick up the victory on this one in any way, shape, or form. Not to say that it was a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. It felt like it was lacking the drama in the match to the point that, unlike the last match beforehand, which had all the drama going in there and even got me at some points to say it's like, oh, they're having AJ win. I didn't get that here. Of course, the crowd was firmly behind Sami Zayn on this particular match, but honestly, the vast majority of this match was taken by Drew McIntyre. They had Sami Zayn kind of play off of a back injury early on in the match when he did a dive outside the ring. He started holding his back, and Drew started going after that. You got teases of Sami attempting to hit the Blue Thunder Bomb, but couldn't do it. Does eventually hit it a little bit later on. Now this is an interesting spot, and made me even think it's like, maybe this move won't ever win a match again unless maybe they have it done to a weapon or something in that sense in there. And that would have been Drew McIntyre hitting Sami Zayn with 3 future shock DDTs, and Sami kicks out of 2 for that. They did try to tease at one point that maybe Sami would get the pin, which would have been after Sami Zayn got his foot on the rope after the first Claymore. Drew is arguing with the referee, and as he goes to turn around, gets hit with a haluva kick by Sami and only gets a 2. This does eventually get outside of the ring, and well, Drew does powerbomb Sami through a table. He's yelling at Sami to stay down, stay down. Sami fights back, hits the exploder suplex into the corner, and then goes for the haluva kick, but it is countered with a Claymore, and Drew waits for Sami to get back up a little bit more and hits a second Claymore for a 3. Now, again, I never felt like Sami Zayn was going to probably win this particular match. If they're going to do a Sami Zayn winning a world title, it will probably be built up to with him probably winning the Royal Rumble at some point in time, or at least first, and then maybe at next year's WrestleMania they end up doing that. I think that would be more the case. But I was kind of looking for them to potentially tease me a little bit more in this match. That it's like, oh, they're going to have Sami win this. And it just never got there. Not to say this was a bad match, because it was not. Because I don't feel like Drew and Sami could have a bad match at this point in time. But it was just one of those things where I felt like the drama just wasn't there in this particular match. Overall, good match, just kind of lacking that drama. And following that match, well, it was the men's Royal Rumble match itself. And this as well, I felt like was... honestly, I felt like a lot of the story beats, not all the story beats, and actually probably the biggest story beat of the match itself, outside of maybe the winner, and also Drew McIntyre costing Cody Rhodes the match, was the beginning of the match itself. And by that, I mean even before the match starts. So number 1, they had Oba Femi come out, who actually does have a very good showing in this match, actually ties for the most eliminations and was one of the longest people, because I think Javon Evans was actually the Iron Man in this particular match. But he starts off the match, and he was going to be starting off against Braun Breaker. You had this great bit at the beginning where Paul Heyman during the pre-show actually gets in Adam Pearce's face about Braun having to be number 2 and trying to say it was a conspiracy against him at that point. And everybody's like, it was a random draw. And I was like, I don't know what you're accusing me of. And then lo and behold, as Braun's coming out to be number 2, he gets attacked by a masked man. Basically the exact same thing that happened at War Games when a masked man came out and attacked CM Punk. Super kick, stomp on the outside of the ring. And then that masked figure throws Braun in there into the ring and immediately gets eliminated by Obafemi. Completely out of the picture right off the bat is Braun Breaker, which I felt like a lot of people assumed he was probably one of the favorites, if not the favorite to win, and honestly was my pick to go along with it. Now, at the beginning of the year when I did my original predictions, for like when I did a predictions for 2026, I had an early Royal Rumble winner for Roman. And actually, I had an early Royal Rumble winner for Bianca Belair as well. The reason why I ended up changing my picks is like, one, you didn't have anything definitive on the women's side that Bianca was even going to show up in the match. And then with Roman, they just announced it with a video package, and he really didn't do anything beforehand to say build to the match itself other than video package that he's in the match. So I ended up changing my picks. One of those, I was right. This match, not so much for that one. So that was a very interesting tidbit right off of the bat there. Other things that were just kind of a little bit out there as well. We had not been seeing Rusev recently. He does show up in this match at number 5 and is pretty much immediately eliminated. Actually gets eliminated by Oba, who eliminates really the first 5 guys, or first 4 guys of the match as well. Actually 5 when, with Cardona to go along with it. Yeah, I believe he eliminated Matt Cardona to go along with that as well. Other things that did really happen, though, I found very interesting within this match as well. From the AAA side, we did get Mr. Iguana and La Parka, which unfortunately didn't get a very big pop there. Kind of like I was really happy at home, but like you could definitely tell crowd wasn't popping for that. And La Parka still using budget thriller at this point in time as well. Powerhouse Hobbs. Royce Keys shows up, and he got the old Hideo Itami or Kenta treatment and Finn Balor treatment, and they may have done this for Asuka back in NXT as well. And that was, they actually made mention to his previous name being Powerhouse Hobbs. They had it on the screen, and then it goes into Royce Keys, which is going to be his new name. They talk it up over commentary as well. And why I say that is because they did these things for Kenta, which back in the day in NXT, when he showed up, they had his initial name on the screen and then fades into Hideo Itami. Same thing for Prince Devitt, Finn Balor as well, and same for Kana, Asuka. They did those type of things, and I was actually a little bit more surprised that they would even make mention to the name Powerhouse Hobbs in any way, shape, or form, but it was a nice little touch, and I found that to be a nice little cool feature to that. Unfortunately, not super familiar over there, so he did not get a very big pop coming out there. I wonder if that would have been different if they were somewhere else that would have been more familiar with Powerhouse Hobbs with that. Though he did get a nice little spot in there with eliminating Damian Priest rather quick in the match. You did also have the rest of the Vision teaming up with each other. You did have like Austin Theory and Bronson Reed come out back to back, and Logan Paul a little bit later, and they did fight on each other's side. There was no real tension really from that because other people eliminated Bronson Reed and Austin Theory, and then Logan Paul was part of the final 4. to go along with it. I do feel like they are heavily teasing Obafemi and Brock Lesnar, because when Brock came out, they eventually cleared kind of the ring, at least not necessarily eliminating a bunch of people, but clearing the ring, and both of them were kind of staring down at each other for a long period of time. They didn't actually fight throughout the entire match. With this one, I did like the bit with the Miz coming out, looking like he was going to run into the ring, and then realizes that it's Brock and Oba there, and they both just kind of look at him, and he just slides back outside the ring. That was a nice little spot, a spot for that one. Ilya Dragunov does get eliminated by Brock Lesnar, and you did have this kind of bit where it's like Ilya's trying to chop Brock, and then Brock just screams at him, and it's just, and then eventually he eliminates Ilya Dragunov. Now, as Rey Fenix is, what was it? Yes. Because as Obafemi was actually going out there and eliminating a particular person, got rid of them, Brock actually eliminates Oba right after the fact on that one. He lasted about 35 minutes in the match, eliminated 5 people. It was tied for like the most eliminations, and I think he was just a couple of minutes off of being the Iron Man in the match itself. Now, this brings Jey Uso coming out there, and as he's doing his entrance, and he's doing like the full entrance and everything in this sense, as that's going on, they briefly cut back to the ring as this while fans are doing the yeet, everything in that sense. And all of a sudden you see LA Knight and Cody Rhodes eliminate Brock Lesnar in the middle of the entrance. I don't know if that was by design or whatever. I'm not 100% certain, but it was like, it felt kind of out of nowhere in that sense of everything. And it was an interesting little tidbit for that. Also, things that happened partway or like towards the end of the match as well. You have Jacob Fatu and Cody Rhodes fighting, which you did also, which they did a lot of in this match. Like Cody would purposely go out of his way to avoid people to fight Jacob Fatu. And eventually Cody is hanging on the top rope, trying to pull himself back in the ring. Looks like he's about to, and then gets hit with a Claymore, getting eliminated by Drew McIntyre in this particular case. And as Drew's going to leave, not only is he kind of staring at Cody, he's staring at Jacob Fatu as well. So I'm wondering if that's leading to a potential triple threat match at WrestleMania on that one. Other tidbits here. I like the whole aspect of when Jey Uso gets back in the is in the ring and everything. He does the run it back thing, and the crowd's into that. And then Roman is next. Roman comes out afterwards, and he's just like, he's happy to see Jey, everything, and he does the run it back. And then they start playing the music, and Roman just punches him. To signify that, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this anymore. Not gonna have it for that one. So what else do we really want to go over here outside of the final bit of stuff here? Oh, yes. So, number 30 is coming out for this one, and it was Gunther. Now, like at my point, it's like, okay, who's number 30? I'd forgotten that Gunther had actually declared for the Rumble as well, but wasn't super shocked when I heard Gunther's music. It's like, oh wait, that's right, he declared as well. That's just went through my mind, and people went absolutely nuclear, not just in the actual actual arena itself, which it felt like maybe they were playing off a bit of like how much they didn't like Gunther, specifically on the fact that he retired AJ Styles earlier in the night, but also online as well because it wasn't Chris Jericho. And I don't know what people were expecting. I really don't know, because Jericho itself, like, it was never really confirmed. It was more speculated through news sites that he was leaving AEW, and most people do feel like he's left AEW. It was going to WWE. So I guess a lot of fans got in their minds like, oh, number 30 and the Rumble. It's got to be Chris Jericho. It's got to be Chris Jericho for that one. It's like, and I never thought that was going to be the case. And maybe that was the aspect that I continually followed the AEW roster page the entire time, and even checked partway through the match. It's like, is Chris Jericho still on the AEW roster page? And there he is, just waving at you on the AEW roster page. Like, yeah, he's not showing up. So I don't know where a lot of people ended up getting that thought process that he's showing up at the Rumble when there was nothing really confirmed that he was going to do it. So that was definitely an interesting little snippet, at least on the online side of everything. Now, as for the final four itself, it does come down to Logan Paul, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns, and Gunther. I did think this was kind of a standard fare of everything for the ending of the Rumble itself. You had Randy Orton eliminating Logan Paul, Gunther eliminates Randy Orton, and then eventually, after a little bit of a fight, you had Gunther getting eliminated by Roman, and Roman wins the Rumble match. And like I said, I thought this was a pretty good Rumble as well. I thought both Rumbles were honestly rather enjoyable. I'm perfectly fine with Roman winning the match as well, because you could set up a pretty decent match, a pretty good match between him and CM Punk. There's something there from last year. Can they play off the fact that do they play off the fact that maybe him shaking CM Punk's hand at Survivor Series was an indication that I actually want your title, and the fact that he looked at Cody and complete disapproval is like, I don't want your match anymore, type of thing. I don't know. But also, I feel like that match would be the case, because I don't feel like they would be going towards a Roman Drew match. I mean, they could do that. But I do feel like the match will probably be more of a CM Punk and Roman Reigns match. And then I feel, just based upon how the stories are going, that you're leading towards, Drew, Cody, and Jacob Fatu in some way, shape, or form. How they get there with the factors that the Elimination Chamber matches are supposed to be for title shots. I don't know how they get there with it, but they'll probably find their way there. I don't know. We'll see if it ends up being any good as well. Like I said, I did rather enjoy both of the Rumbles this year, and honestly, just enjoy the show in general. So that is basically everything for this year's Royal Rumble review. I should be back with another review for the Elimination Chamber, because oddly enough, we don't have an AEW pay-per-view before then, because they're not till like mid-March at this point in time. And this is like at the beginning of March or even late February, for the Elimination Chamber. So I should have predictions for, Elimination Chamber, and then review for Elimination Chamber after the fact. Then I do plan on doing predictions for AEW Revolution and doing a review for Revolution to go along with that as well. Maybe if I find time to do like an AEW one, maybe if I look at AEW's Grand Slam being a pretty good looking show, maybe we do something with that. I don't necessarily know, but we'll see how everything plays out. But though, in terms of predictions and reviews, that's what will probably be coming up to the channel down the line. Feel free to leave your comments below how you felt about this year's Royal Rumble. Also, like the video if you so wish, and subscribe to the channel as well. And with that being said, I hope you all take care, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great rest of your day.